It's a shir in המשך תרע"ב, חלק א', מיימר דיבר מסחיל ויורך השם זרח הניחויך, עמוד תוף למד חס, just before the kitzur. So we saw it in the Bureau that all the Olamas, after the Shviras HaKelim, the Toyu, including and Ulai Beika Atzilas, are all Birurim the Toyu. So, Fiza Ekuntra is that even Olam Atikun is really a Biru of Toyu. So, what's the whole inyan of the Tzike Kedera, with the whole inyan of the Poseidlas that we saw, etc. Everything is a Biru from Toyu. The tshuva was that Olam Atzilas is a Biru Milmaila Lamata. The two Eifani are Biru. And the BMS, those Birurim go the whole way through, as you might say. There's a Shocha, the Biru Milmaila Lamata, Ad Lamata, and then there's a Biru Milmata Lamaila, Gamkein Ad Lamaila Maila. But that's Beika Tole Bavedus Order. So we saw that in the Biru Milmaila Lamata, well, that's the union of the Biru of Shem Ban. However, we were medactic that Shem Ban Be'atzmei is the Ika Habiru, or when I say Ika Habiru, it's from the Biru. In other words, that the union of Shem Ma, which is later Poyel, the Beetle, and the Biru B'Kol Sharei HaMadreges, well, that itself is a Biru. That through the Eibishter Milmaila Lamata being Mavara, the union of Ban, which was Be'iked and Nefila of Toyu, what that means that in every union, even if it's a union Elokim Mitzad Hashem Kodesh, that there's a certain trace of a union Hashayach Ela Oilamas V'Hayesh. And from that, Beribu Oda Nefila, Oda Beribu Yishtausha, there can be a certain unique. Ve'ilu Shem Ma, that's the union from Kedusha, or Elyoina Be'etzem. It's the union from Tikkun Be'etzem, because the Tikkun which brought to Shem Ma is Milmaila Lamata. That's only the Eivish himself, therefore it's Betachas Ashleimes. And that's what we're saying. And therefore all the Madregas and Olam Atzilas, all of them are Alidei Biru Zeh Milmaila Lamata, and therefore they're all Niklal in Kedusha Selakis, or Kedusha Selakus Be'etzem. And we saw that their Madregas feel in Pnimius Ak, but that's Lamaila Kemovan Mi'elam Nikudim, or that's in Ivantoyu. No, that's a Gilei Lakus Be'etzem, Yusod Ak, and we brought down from the Lakuti Terelam Natel Hashminiyas. And then we went on to say, it's interesting that's Naget this week's Parsha, we quoted from Lakuti Tera and the Biur, the Mimona, it's a long mimer, the whole Biur itself is a long mimer in Lakuti Tera in this week's Parsha, Mimona Afar Yankee. But over there, the Alter Rebbe's Mavaya Achidish, even K'tzat Yeser Nifla v'Yeser Mudgash, I feel in what we're learning here, that I feel the Bureau of Keser Datzilos, I feel the Madregas HaKeser is also a Bureau, Milmaila Lamata, in the Oven that we're describing here, whereby everything, all the Poseidlas is Nishlach or Neufel Lamata, and the Tachas HaMuvcha remains in the Olam where it is, and I feel in Keser Datzilos there's also a Zamin Biru, and that's the union from Ma Be'etzem. Shalom. Your friend didn't come with us this time?
No, maybe he'll come in the middle.
So it could be a Tzvi also, may come in the middle. I doubt it somewhat, but maybe. And so therefore, even the union, and that's we were Mavai in the previous class, the Loshen Shemar HaChodosh, because the Shem Ma Be'etzem was that's not a Toitzah from the Bira, no, that's his Etzem Shem Ma. And then there's the Shem Ma, which is a Toitzah itself from the Bira and the liquid of the Kedusha from the Netutis of Toyo, how it is Milmaila Lamata. Then we went on to say V'gama Kelim Datzilas, a few lines up from the Kitta. Heine Lakush Mamish, V'niklu Gam Arkoi. The Ego was the Oiris to Toihu, and the Netutis of Toyo, but then Netutis HaOiris. And now he goes on to say that even the Kelim Datzilas, they're Elakus Mamish, V'niklulu Gamkein B'Shem Ma, Rak Shaheim B'Chinas Ban Dema. So here we see an interesting diuk, because the whole fundament, as you might say, the beer is that ban is shad to yesh and shad to metzias. And l'choira, the ini from ma uban almost what you might call hafochim. And yet nonetheless the Rebbe says that kelim, even harayah and atzilas, are inin shel shem ban. And the reason being that the ini from kelim is b'derech hametzias sheba sfiris. It's inin bria sheba atzilas. In other words, it's the inim shetavke ali day zeh nase geresh al yirida v'amshoch lamata ali day the kelim. Mitzad the that's not chaya, and therefore that's the inin of ban was ban in yone b'shor shoyim b'tachlit sakidusha is the inin from yirida v'is is galas. But dafke because it's inin from yirida v'is galas, we'll see that there's a certain trace of a possibility of upon him on slightly lower madrigas of what you might call a unique retaining upon in shel yesh. Therefore, there has to be the bira in ban. Over the kelim harayah and atzilas are ban dema, and that's what he teaches the Rebbe that maviyim u'megalim b'chinas b'chinas ben shamba. What does he put in instead? Bechina de Shema. In other words, there maybe Megala Dini van Shema or the Tikkun Be'etzem. By Mashkosa B'Lakuti Tera Ba'Bio de Mi Mono, but that's a Shaykh to Heintige Parsha. It's interesting, we always in the middle of the Sam Hashgocha, but I get to the Indian Parsha. I'm sorry. We already read that. Kamashkosu Mochimacha, not I Mashkosu, no, Kamashkosu. But Mochimacha, Ukamaya Toiro, Shi Chokma Brura. So on the Russian Chokma Brura, Dainu, Mashikfa Nizbarara Milmaila, Behi Bchinas Atikun Be'etzem. Ukaneda Shagam Ho'isias de Teresh Biksav, but that's Bedugman Sinyan Akelim. Like the Alter Rebbe and Shara Yichud, saying oisias dema. Even the oisias are in shel ma. Be'alkeina oinig bezeh ubchinas oinig atzmi. Like we were talking before, ainin which is shaykh to oinig kilo beli kol dova bilti mesuda or bilti mishtayech la oinig. Not as oinig be'etzem definition of oinig. But here it's interesting that we see that there's a certain trace in Torah, but also Torah is a biro from the Indian from Torah. As I come to say, the Philologian, the Torah is the Indian from Chochma Brura, Shekvan is Bara Milmaila. What did the Torah need to be Mishbara? You know, the Torah is Torah Be'etzem. That's an interesting lesson. So we have to say that since of course Torah is Chochma, or Yeraisa mi Chochma Nafkes, is if we look carefully in that mind from the beer from Mi Mono in Likutei Torah, then there appears over there a whole beer, as I said, when I get to not a lengthy beer, but it's in the beer of Momaila Lamata. And it's mishtayich over there beike to the in madregas hakesser shebatzilos. And he goes on to say v'gam chochma, and the mashmois of the loshen is that the chochma is kilo more shaykh leban. And why? Because the Indian of Chochmah is Isgalus, Begilui. Wherever you talk about Isgalus, Begilui, then you by definition, Lefi Kol HaMavur Sham, and Lefi was es versteht sich, also in Chassidus, that you're talking about a possibility of a Indian Sheyura Legabi the Makabel, Im Kain, Yesh Leze Eze Nagia Ela, what you might call the Matthias HaMakabel. If it's only a Matthias of Makabel, then is Yesh Kan Geder Shel Matthias. And that's the Indian from Ban. And therefore, even though is das Gilui Elikus, aber die erste Musik of Gilui is already in Shel Ban. And therefore, we have to say that the way the Torah came down, and it was Nitan, Lamata, was in order to, what you might call, make easier the whole Bira. Alidea Odom Davki B'Koach HaTorah is the Ika Bira. But in the Torah itself is also a Madreya Gavoya, Ma B'Etzem, albeit, so that even the Oisias are not Bancha B'ma, but they're Ma B'Etzem. But Sokosov, this is a Indian Kedei Levatzeya, בנסידס כוח החופונים אל האדם בסוף כל המדרגות, to carry out the Indian Abira. Therefore, כל wie sagt der Alte Rebbe, כל המסאביק עם מנוו, wherever there's a certain trace with a gather of Matthias, then there's already a figure in the מדרגה העליונה שגויבר על המדרגה התחתונה. יש לזה איזשהו Shemet Shel Ha'inyan Hazeh. Therefore, since Torah was given Kedei Li'afsher or L'Hokel Inyan Abira, then we have to say that Yesh L'Torah Gam Eize Inyan Bazeh. B'rfat B'nigla the Torah, B'rfat Herois of Torah Arekam Lamata. Ulai Yesh Leima Bin Pnimis HaTorah B'madreges HaGavoya Shebo Ein Bazeh את העניין הזה, וכמובן בכמה מקרים. אבל בכלל סינן התורה, כן. And therefore said the Rebbe that האויסיאס, תורה שבכסף, של חור הסינן הכלים, הם אויסיאס דמה. And therefore their oinig is העניין von oinig בעצם. בגולוי לא נמצא שם שום עניין של פסילוס in the oinig. But we have to say שבתכלס שבתכלס יש בזה. ואוקיי, נראינו בזה הוא פי דזייניק עצמי, או כמו יראינו בכל דבר התאי בעצם. ועל זה נאמר, איכלו רעים. That's a posik in Shir HaShirim in Perek Hey, that Chochma Bina should eat. Shehein Chochma Bina איכלו, אכילה זה העניין von oineg. שיש בזה oineg מורגש באיכל. Like we just pointed out, Chochma's already become part of, say, the Gilui V'Ishtaushus HaSfiras. Amamil already shaying that a certain trace of Ezu Nagia El Inyan HaMatzias, and therefore that's a Inyan von Oineg Murgash, albeit still B'Tachlis HaKedusha, but it's already beginning the Inyan von Murgash, and that's the Inyan von the Cheich Eichel Yitom, that the palate, its Inyan is Eichel, and therefore it's a Inyan von Tam. On Tam, the whole Inyan von Tam is dark in the pellet. The Inyan von Tam indicates a yerida and a certain, what you might call, slabshes or shayches to Inyan HaMatzias. Begin is Gilui Eurein Seif Shemeya Ba Chochma. Like he's medactic in the Kuti Torah. The Dakki that Gilui is the Maila of a Metalasheni. Yesh Beseb Dachis Shebedachis Aini Shulchsar. Venimshe Gam Bepinas Malchus goes all the way down to Malchus. Akameshikosu Bossi Lagani. That's in the same posik, but it's the beginning of the posik. Bossi Lagani Achoisi Chala or Chalti Yadim Im Divshi. I ate Yari is the name from Yaris Advash. The corner from Dvash is called a Yar. Yari Im Divshi. Akamai Atamim the Seides Verozin the Raisa. Mesukim midvash chulu. So it's interesting that any Indian in Torah has already got that aspect about it, that it's a chayich yitom. And any limit of Torah brings to a inyan von tainug be'emes l'choira. Be'etzem gilui prat zeh b'Torah, when the inyan von limit of Torah is meluve im oinig.
But I don't feel such an onik when I'm learning Rambam, Halachos Kelim, and...
Der Pfarrer, die bist noch ein bisschen schach, weißt du, zu Matthias. Der Pfarrer, you're not mufshat, legamri, mikol, shayr, leilamaze. Is you see it to be a certain tircha, a shaykhs in leilamaze. Or somebody that is only a mavur, he sees it in the Rambam. They say about, who was it, a sign from the Gracer. Polish said when he learned Gemara that he could only learn a line or two, and then they had to stop him. They had to sort of try and be Masir Das or something that he should bring his mind down, because as soon as he started looking at the Gemara, he saw all these Giluim from Sheamus Elyenim, Spheros Elyenis. He wasn't able to sort of bring it down into the pshat. So when he looked in the Rambam, doubtless he saw also is Kamur b'Mechilas quite Rosbach is at least you learn the Rambam books. Come to Islafisha. That ein Chanami afil a nigla the Torah of the Ike inyan von Tam, and that we might say that's the Chabadske kwetsch. By unser Rebbeim the Ike Tam was in the Pneumius in the Seides. Don't give me. וכמוי הטעמים דסיידס ורוזין דרייסה שמסוקים מדבש ונקרא דיבשי ייניבה חלובי או חלובי or it's written over there in all in that same posik אכלת יערי ודיבשי ייניבה חלובי all those חלוב עניונים השייכים אל אחיך או באין דחי גופה Tamim Dakim in Inyonim Nailim with a very miyuchadik Masikas, Kemoy Dvash, for example, that's Masikas Be'etem, Yain is also, and Cholov, to those who have a leaning towards Cholov, also doubtless feeling of Ainin Dak of Oinig. But that's a inyan von Oinig, what you might call expected and defined Oinig. Does Oinig Be'etem? So here, even though it comes out through a certain birra, I feel that the etem oishis atira are also through a certain birra. But aleph the birra is a birra dak b'yaser, and beis be me'achasha birra hu alidei HaKadosh Baruch Hu milmaila lamata at the far it becomes al-kopani for all purpose of the hashpah, it becomes a inyan of tikkun and gilel kus be'etem.
The previous things. Dvash and yain or chalav are pnimi things. It's not like the.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we're talking. That's what we were medactic here. That he brings a raya for the oinig shebetorah beikar from the pnimiyas. So we have to say that because the amitis inyan from oinig is something that elevates you and takes you into a higher world, into a inyan from loss of the self, as you might call it. Like it's brought when he get to Rabbi Akiva when he learned to say this of Torah mit Rabbi Eliezer that he was Zolgo ein of Demoyes with the only complete Lord. It's born in citizen. That's the Demoyes mitad oinig atzmi, and he was completely out of it, as they say. So we have to say that because Amitius etem musik of oinig is a inyan von aliyah, and what you might call his colorless Lamaila, loss of the feeling of the yesh, therefore that inyan is more shaykh in pnimis or Torah than on the contrary, nigel of the Torah, you got to keep your head. You understand? You can't. Like we just brought from this Gutayid, whoever he was, you can't just drift away in the high. You got to keep with all the different factors. So even though there's a town and a gishmak b'seh, it's not the amitis masikas of oinig. For oinig is a inyan maliyah v'bitl yoter. And therefore those inyonim dvash are from masikas miyuchedes that they tend to take the person into a certain dveikus. Kitzer, ועדיין צריך להבין בקורבנס נאמר גם כן ריח נכויה. We were medactic in the previous moment, the reach was a very high madrega, higher than the inyan van achila. And then we ask the kasha that harei korbanos inyan van achila, and yet nonetheless we find the inyan shel reach. Inyan hu the reach hu midova chorif v'kihuya. Beklau we saw that reach came from dvorim charifim, and the effect of reach on the odem and oifen mamoshi, as you might call it, is davke from dvorim which are charifim lefiyarach. Hu bira anitzutzes tatoyo. So we were medactic that a dover chorif v'kihuya comes kilo from a dover menagi le'etzem inyan ha'oineg, and that's how we got into the whole discussion of etzem inyan ha'oineg. Beginnes oires takifim, what kihuya v'charifas indicates a dover takif, v'gama kelim b'teikif mipnei ha'miyut. What in olam ha'teyu, the mitzad the miyut of the kelim, their yechoilas to be koil in themselves and to be makabel, the oil otzum of teyu, therefore they are also in a inyan for miyut. Mashenkin and tikkun, we find that the inyan from teikif came dafke with a yisrachavos. To be yisrachavos, a teikif hu al pia tam. However, we saw that the difference was that in olam ha'tikkun, but that's in olam ha'atzilas l'moshel, the inyan from hasoge amitius, which is a inyan from yisrachavos, when a person is masik something and he brings it into gilui b'sforas of betamim, but that's even his rachavas, and he has a certain, once he's understood it and he's got it and he knows his reason for why he holds that way, then he has a toikif. He's very strong about it, and he'll be manayal against a vikuach if somebody stands on kegen v'chulu. However, that's a yisrachavas and a toikif which goes with the yisrachavas, but it's all alpi tam. It's all got the hagbola of inyan atam. Mashenkim b'miyut, miyut meaning the inyan from toihu, or the toikif which comes over there, is an impossibility of the kelim to be makabel. Well, that's a toikif chorif b'yesa, and that causes a inyan from miyut, and therefore the toikif is b'etzem, not mitzad a inyan from yisrachavos. Ukeshenishburu v'noflu nazudover ki, because their inyan was kifas be'etem, when they fell, they become like a sharp or a resisting type taste. But they inyan hiricha tzike kedera, we bought parichas, the whole moshe of the bas melech, that she wanted to, she smelt the burnt leftovers at the bottom of a cook, tavshil that had been cooked, and that's a very strong sort of a rare which left over in the bottom of the pot. And we began by saying the difference in that whole concept of tzike kedera is the difference between something which is not oinig amiti, it's only oinig because you overcome something which is menagid. Mashenkin oinig amiti. And so therefore we began to be masbir oinig atzmi, we met oinig mitzad definition, or mitzad gilui. Inyan be tainug al derech, what you might call expectation, that's the amitis inyan from tainug in its own definition. Ki yesh oinig atzmi shemedova ha'orev be'etem. Okame oine b'muskoles, or b'midas ha'tev, by aish ha'tev, he feels a oinig in a dover she be'etzem a dover hamo unag lama, because it's in van teuv, in van ashpoas teuv elazuras. Yesh einig abo mea fochi, so the dafki from something which is menaged al derech harol, in van einig dafki that can bring so to our einig. But that's a einig which didn't come from a dover which is expected einig, nor comes from a what you might call overcoming a difficult situation, which is also oinig. Although that's not oinig by definition. That's in other words, who says you have to have a managid? Who even wants it? There should be a managid. But if there is, then there's a certain gishmak otzum alidei the bittul of the managid. Although that's not even oinig al derech harogel. Yesh oinig abo me'ahofchi ukamei b'nitzua chameh Nagid or Basoras Alomis in the Indian from Pilpul, as far as in Indian that you can be measured the Alamas Estating for the Kushias. We saw that that's got the ability Shacholush a mensch what is nechlas be etzem yisav l'reach chozok as somebody who's been nechlas al idei choyser mozen or choyser tnoim and nechoinim, and he's become very ovishvat and very lacking for the ability to express himself al derech, then he has a tshuka and a tainer to a reach chozok, which comes davki from the psuelos of a kedera, because that's going to give him a sort of return to a certain freshness that he's lacking be'etzem. Cain, who he said the same thing as even from Bas Melech, that was the Moshel Bechinas Malchus, Shabo Mishkalim Ha'eres De'es Asfiris Shahin Tikun be'etzem. That was what we saw in the end, and the Maskona Bossi Lagani, all the Inyonim Ha'reah Mitzad Shemar, all Mishkalim Malchus. Hagam do Eres Gam, Ken is Bararu me Oyer de Toyu. Yeah, the Eres of Tikun also come from the Eres of Toyu. Ach Nichlalo Bechinas Atikun. They've all been Nichlal in the Indian from Tikun, Ukamoya Biro Sheini, Shenichlal Belakun. We discussed the whole concept of the Biro Rishon, which is Mitzad the Makabu Mulmata Lamaila, and then we saw there was literally the Kaviyochel, the divine hand, which reaches down Mulmaila and elevates upward. The Nira can't be mamish machzir, he can't give back the nitzut mamish in Delakus. You know, we give it up to a certain point, and then Mulmaila, it's brought up and elevated into the Yichud of Atzila, and that's what we call the Shem. The Biro of Shema, BMS, and that's what we call Biro Sheini. Kamavur Barich is in the famous Maimah in Torah, Hine Anatum Yalmim Alumim Betoicha Sodeh Pasha Mikait. There is a whole big Arich Zapir in that Hine from Biro Sheini. V'cheina Eres Nichlolo B'yasei Da'ak. Similarly, so not only these in Oiros, Alidei the Birosheni Milmaila Lamate Amisachi Limatzilas, no, even in the Shurah Atzilas, how it is Lamaila Mito Vatikon Gamyacha, the Ina from Pnimius Ak, and we saw that was Ina from Yasei the Ak, because the Ina from Malchus the Ak, even though it's Lamaila Mito Vatikon, over Ital Choponim, a certain Nasinus Mokim, to the Ina of the Shvira Betoihu. Yes, that's a Inin from Ban. Like we said, Bechol Inin Shel Ban, yes is a Dakas, or Nasinas Mokim Al to a Geder from Matthias. However, in the Inin from Yesod Achot, that's Pnimius Ach, therefore it's a Inin from Gila Lakus Emes, Lamaila Mitoyo Vatikun, and the Aliyah of those Oiris, the Netzutze Oiris is into the Inin from Yesod Ach, and therefore it's Tikun be Etem. Shema, that's the whole concept of Shema. The Shema itself is a Gilui of the Biro Shel Maila, and it becomes the Koyach, which is matakin the whole of Atzilas, and there was, it's also matakin the Biro Sheini. V'akelim, they are ban dama, they're the gather of his galas that there is in Shema. V'kamoyeshis the Torah Shebiksav, and we were medactic in that just now. Ubezehu einik atzmi ichlu rei. V'nivshe gam b'malchus bosi lagani achalti yari v'nivshi inyanim for even though bedachis there's been a certain biro of a mitzadi amiti sinin, but this is not the place here. The truth is in that beer of Mimona over there with the Shata Heintige Parsha, over there the Alter Rebbe is Masbid, the Mila of Ma, but that's in from Beetle Be'etem. In other words, that's in what was called in Lubavitch Hanoches Atzmusai, that even though you are a certain Geder, you were something, but you are taken no Mila and you become so bottled that you're something that's really a nothing. That you become you're no longer in the who's book, but you're out. You're completely bottled to Elikuz. Even though you are a who's who, even though you are something, but you're completely bottled with Tatis Hapitel, and that's the union of Shema, and that's a Gewaldige Meile And that's what the Rabbeim called Hanochas Atzmusei. There is a Atzmusei. It's not just like the Shema Ha'atzmi Ha'arishon, but that's the meaning from Ab. Shema, but this is Bittul Be'etem Amus Beli Shum Yedir Klal. There's such thing as a Matthias. No, Ma is that there was already what you might call an expression, a shmek tabik of a Matthias. It already began to sort of have some sort of and then it itself becomes Bottle Be'etem. Well, that's got a power to carry out Birah. Well, from that we see that Derech Haggadah, I mean, this is the Shema doesn't seem to carry out all the bittul, even though it's mamish be'etem ushe be'etem. And if you get up very high, then maybe you can get even into Shema. But what really does all the work is Shema. The pele is that all the inyanim, what the Eibishter wants, and the kavana amiti is after everything, there's already been what you might call carried out. There's already been a akudim, and then we got into the akudim. We got the whole, what the Eibishter looked for. The Ganze does. What actually does the work is Shema. Shema is, to use the expression, he's got a bit of a shaykhs with the whole inyan, and in that guva he's made a inyan from bittul, not stam bittul, but he's been in it, but he's cancelled it out altogether, but he doesn't run away, he's still there.
I don't understand exactly what is Shema. I understand that there's Orois, I understand there's Kalim and Atzilus, but what is Shema?
Yeah, Shema is the inyan of what you might call the catalyst which makes it all function. In other words, if we're going to be mavara this inyan, how are we going to make that from Chokhmah to Atzilus will become, let's say, Bina and afterwards Chesed, Gvura, also even that they're not going to be inyan from Ban. They're still going to remain inyan from Bittul Amiti Telakus. So you have to have a certain what you might call motto that's running through the whole thing, and it's helping all these inyanim what mitzadatzman they wouldn't be able to achieve it, and that's the inyan from Ma. Ma is this inyan from Bittul. In other words, Ma teaches you that even though you've already become a Matthias, you become Ois Matthias. And that's a koyach which can only come in an inyan which has experienced that be'etzem, and it's come kilo milmaila lamata, and it's like the catalyst which feeds into each inyan, Lufi Inyone, and makes it into Atzilus or Tikkun or Delinga.
It's like the Windows program on the computer?
Like the Windows program? I don't know what the heck that is, but I'm sure it's something like that. It's what you might call, like I said, it's the motto. It's the inyan which is Poel B'Kol Madrega Lufi Inyone, a inyan which since each inyan is an inyan as it feels its inyan, how's it going to be and yet be absolutely always be completely bottled? So the Eibishter makes this general catalytic hashpah or mashpia, that's called the Shema. In other words, it's like that's what we say every Friday. Diyu Shema, Diyu Oirach Atzilus. Shema is the way. It's the derech through which you can go through Atzilus. Otherwise, you just each inyan gets lost in it on. That's what happened with Toyo. Each inyan was betachas hakedusha, was tachas hayofi v'atoy, but it didn't have that inyan, and it was batel. That's written that there was too much bittul. It was so bothered that all we are, here we are, but it's going back. What do we need to see from Yerida? What's up with Yerida? And that's inyan from Tzag. Ma says no. Here is a Tzag system. What's Yerida? Who knows what's going to be? Yerida will just become always. No Yerida. So the inyan from Ma says, oh yes, we can be Yerid. We know how to deal with that also, because we're so bottled that even if we'll be Yerid, it won't hurt anything. What's the stand? Das ist nicht gut. Und das hat Pelle die gesagt hat. Und von dem you need Moshe Rabbeinu. Von dem darf man Moshe Rabbeinu. You can't just, that's the secret from the Rebbe all the years. The Rebbe said, you have to go out, you have to be Mekusha with the Mayu on, and you have to have the Mayu. What is the Mayu? Ma? That's the thing from Ma. And that gives you the quote, to be in it, and Ulai Zakavon, and the famous Pisgah, from the Rebbe Rayat said, to be in the world and out of the world at the same time, in Welt und Israel. And that's Ma, dat is niet van Ma. En voor al die andere Inyanim, de Abend, Saar, weet je, zelfs geweldige high Inyanim, aber the ultimate tachlis is that in the EU Shema, the EU Erechatil. Atila can't make it unless it's got this whole catalyst called Shema. Can't do it. Condition is that. En we zeggen, Vanachnu Ma, iemand uit die alle, Vanachnu Ma, Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron, they're Ma in the very edge. That's what they're meaning for Ma.
But isn't Ban also Yerida? Ban is also Yerida.
Magmim?
Ban is also a...
Yeah, but Ban's already, like we said, we spoke of Barita, the Ban is already in from Matthias, Bakol Mako. It's already got a certain Nagia Ella in Matthias. I forget, we have to be Mavara Ban. We have to make sure that one doesn't fall or get slightly out of place, as you might say. That's in from Ma. But it's just a pellet. I find this Gedele Shimush of Terra, yes, a Milimuda. On Shabbos, one of my eniklik found in my Sforim about a year or two ago, the Bells of Sinim gave out a big thing for Kof Aleph Menachem or something. When is it? Kof Beis, the outside of the Rabbaran of me Bells. But he was Ish Kali. So they gave out a big choveret with the whole story of him toasting. And there, about 2/3 of the way through, I was just picturing through this glancing. Boom! There's the picture of the Rebbe Rayatz and the Rebbe standing with his short coat. That was when they came to give the Ezrachut to the Friedrich Rebbe. You know, the picture is a picture of the Rebbe standing there almost like a lion, right? Very still. And the Rebbe Rayatz is looking very sort of weak. You can see it's a big effort for him. He's sitting there in his Shtreimel and Pelzim. And you got these American officials, standing over. So all of a sudden that picture appears there. So show him. Yeah, but it interested me where you touch. And there's a whole big long piece in this Choveret, how the Rebbe Aaron Bells, he would not have got out. He wouldn't actually made it if not the Ishtadlus for the Rebbe Rayat. And there's a whole description there, how the Rebbe Rayat wrote letters and he said Shluchim and at Gitun and Gishriyan to save the Belzer from the and he got out. Mamish, the most miraculous. They found him. They saved him. He lost his whole family. They got him out. Just Mamish from the lion's mouth. And it was brought down there. The IQ, one of the IQ forces in the whole thing was the status of the Rebbe Rayat. Therefore, he was not given to Torah. He was a Shatkan Be'em, as he was a Ish Kodesh. The Friedrich wrote of him. Ish Kodesh She'er B'Sori. They were Mitzvot Chernobyl. Somehow or another they were Korean. I mean, albeit maybe distant of the Korean. And therefore, bringt es dort a Sipur that the Friedrich Rebbe once sent the Rashan came here on a visit to Otso, and he sent him to visit the Belzer Rebbe and give ask him how was him, what happened, how did it all go. And in those days, Nishi went the emails at the department that was Nishi was pink was and Ben. He was already in Otso. And it's written that he gave away an hour and a half of his time to talk with the Rashan. And they said it was a Bilti Rovio Klau. He never spoke with anybody more than about 15 minutes back. He was Beklau, not given to Diva Barichas Klau. And that he himself told the Rashan also to Binyan, but he never told anybody. And if he's Mishamshim and things, he said to them about what actually happened. And that's because he realized that without the Rebbe Rayat, he wouldn't have made it. As they stayed taught. So I thought to myself, we should do it. I mean, it's an amazing book. It's all full of his lifetime, and here's this whole piece where if you read it, so what do you see from that? That the Rebbe Rayat, he's in from Erichot Ma Be'etzim, part of the world, or in the world, go for a bit. You know, he's got just take to decent letters and to get towards it, and shluchim, to make sure that another year, a leader of the Jewish people should be saved and should be preserved, and he should be got out. And mamish miraculously, he was matlir together with the other people that were filled by come over. So that's in van dat is Shema Biet. Dat is die mythische in van onze Rabbein. En dat is in van Melech HaMashiach. Melech HaMashiach in Yoni is anything's his business. You name it, he's in it. And if you look in these type of literature, and they bring down without being masalif the Inyanim, what the Rebbe Ayat was important, that he was a schwacher mensch. He was my mensch on koiches and on his letters and mises and pilos and hisaskis haklal, but even haki niflo. And at the same time, he's unbelievable Giloyim and Pneumas Hater and the whole library, the Likutei Diburim and all the things that he wrote. I mean, the Friedrich Rebbe's output in writing is not much shorter than that of the Rebbe the Talmud Tzedek. I mean, it's a man. The Mensch was wrote sorry, gesetzt bei den Kommunisten, wie kommt das? And he was mamish cholush b'briusay. And after we can look at this, and Deutsch said, so I learned a lot from that chover that my Einigo brought out. I mean, apart from the Kedusha of the Belzer Rebbe himself, he was a very holy man. This is written in the letters that the Friedrich Rebbe wrote to the Hasidim about him. But it's written after that they had a whole hitchatfut, they had a swap of letters, barichas, gedola. You see, I learned from that a tremendously important lesson that our Rebbeim, anything is their business. They're able to be in anything, and they just keep moving, everything remains exactly the same. It's like the octopus of Kedusha, 50 different hands, you know. I mean, all comes back into, and that's what state there. That's an idea for Ma. Everything goes, because we're in the world, but we're out of it at the same time. We're in the world, we're out of it at the same time. And so far, and Yidden, we're out of the world. No, Gesundheit, out of the world. Sitzen da in Besmeiders, you have your minyan, you're out of the world. Melech HaMashiach and Nitzai. Melech HaMashiach is in the world. Anything, you name it, he'll do it. And that's the Sikha of the Rebbe. That's what the Rebbe said when he got to Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah, in last week's part, there was no bear anymore. Miriam, even though I gave all Sheklo with all Jew Anova and everything, I recommend maybe it's good if you hear the last week's Sheklo. I gave all the Indian. Then I get to Gimel Tamas. It started over the Posi with Thomas Shom Miriam. But anyway, whatever. It's, for whatever reason, it stopped the bear. Yeah, so Moshe Rabbeinu. The Gemara says, "Masek the time." Moshe Rabbeinu brought the bear, stopped the Ananekot. Anything is Moshe Rabbeinu's business. You name it, he's got. And that's what we're talking about. That's the Indian, or even Shem Ab can't achieve that. Shem Ab is high. It's bottled. But to be in the whole ganzen Apechel and there to be poil the ganze Indian, but the whole octopus, the Kedusha, with here a finger and here a hand, he was just das and Jens and Mans and and to his great credit, the Rashag was also very involved in a lot of the Pilas in those years. He was very involved. A lot of letters from him that he wrote to all sorts of people. Given he was a Chosh of koyach in those days in the Inyanim, and that's why the Belzer Rebbe gave him such an unbelievable Kabbalah mind. Anyway, actually, yeah, I thought I'd put that in. That's in from, we're Hemshech from Gimel Tammuz, and Dalet Tammuz happens to be the author of my Mashpia. Yeah, and Hey Tammuz by night is the author of Mendel. So we're already Hey Tammuz now. We're Dalet Tammuz, but we're Hey. Yes, and they were brothers-in-law. They were shvogers, and they passed away not in the same year, but they passed away. Mamish a day. Huh? Yeah, Benzi is the next day. He's born. Yes. 3 days. Huh?
He's also
Hey, maybe, I'm not sure.
He's also family, no?
Yeah, they were all 3 of them were brothers-in-law. They were all brothers-in-law.
Shem Ban is higher than Shem Ma?
Sure, Shem Ban is higher.
It's
Sure.
52 and Shem Ma
But
is 45.
Begolui, the way the Shem Ban is Yored and Miskala, it's Lamata Mishem Ma. And therefore the Inim of Shem Ma has to return the Inonim of Ban to their Amitius titles. Ali Teise, and there's Miskala then a new Kolabitl of a Bepuil, like Benegel Inyanenu, Shem Ban is Lamata Mima. Up to now we've been talking about all sorts of good inyanim, but at all we know how they are. Either they are or they've been misbara, and how they call tikkun be etem atzilus be'etem. However, there's such a inner peseilus hashefa atzilus who shenisha lamata bebi favus was the tight. Like we said, what the ikadiyun here is the biramel mailala. No mailalamata. So what happens is that in each oilam you take out the best you can possibly achieve, benegel oilamahu, and then the rest falls lamata. In Mamela the psilas aikari is nisha biyah, and in biyah gufa in achilas. I'm sorry, in asiya lamata. Akamishkosa beit chaim the masha hoya efshalis bare uli kol bachilos nikol bivin kedushas elakus tatzila. You see the lotion kedushas elakus tatzila. V'hainu shenase b'pchina shema kanal. Like we said, shema is a inyan which was also nas alidei the biro, alidei the etzem biro, and then the inyan shema brings everything into its, like we saw, into its, what you might call its whole story. Vasha nofel bria. That's the biro milmaila lamata. Umi bria leyatzira, miyatzira leyasiya. That's the pshat. Peselas hashefa shenisha lamata bi'ike beilamasiya. V'imi yoish shekam bezeh hoya biro milmaila kenoida. I mean, how did that get there? It got there inside the biro milmaila. Mikol mokim hari nisha mashaloin is bara. If you're talking about a bira misuk zeh, then there must be something left over at the end which wasn't misbara. Because each time you're taking out the good and you're letting the peselas fall. So soft there must be some sort of what you might call final point where the peselas ends up. So he said, "Einachanamim." That's the inyan von Elama Asiya Lamata. Mikom okimari nisha mashaloin is bara. Upchinas noiga debia. In other words, in a very delicate way, it's in bria. In a slightly more delicate, even, and maybe half, to use the expression, it's in Yetzirah. And then it becomes a inyan for noiga betoikef in yon noiga tav kilamata boelama vasiya. But gam mashin is bara, loin is bara, between biro b'shleimet. Now, when we say mashin is barer, we have to say that maybe this is a reference to the biro which begins milmata lamaila, because that psilas, which is nisha lamata, somebody has to deal with it. Maybe it's just going to stay psilas. So that's the avodas on neshomas. The neshomas lamata, ba'avidosam, they got to start going back through the biro psilas. So they have to begin al choponim, but that's what we saw, that the biro, they can be poil is only ad madrigim mesuyemes, and then you need the biro sheni, which has to come no maila lamata. Yeah, tahari klol is biyah hu inin shem ban. Here we run into this inyan from shem ban. In other words, in atzilas einachanami. Atzilus is already Elikus, like we saw, Kedushas Elikus Ta'atzilus. You got that? That's Elikus, and that's Kedushas Elikus, and that's Atzilus. In Biyah, you can't say that. In Biyah, you can say that it's Elikus. Yes, the Spheres B'chol Olam, for example, Elikus. But they come in such a way that they're Shah to Ban. And that's what we pointed out, that the concept of Shem Ban, Begematria Behema, is the idea that Ein Lachanami does this Elikus, or in Elikus Kufa, it's how we are and we want that there should be a certain gather of Hargoshes HaMatziyah. How can you say in the old expression, it's of course all Masharotzim Mil Maila, and that's the Indian we find in many places. The Rebbe is soon going to say it, that wherever you go pure mitzad the Indian from Ban Kemoishahu, particularly in the in Yom Shalamata, there's always a certain what you might call Hergish Atzmi. There's a certain mix in of the gather of Matthias, because that's the Ikenia. Therefore, he's medactic to say that the clause Bi'ah is Rebbeinu Shemba. Atzilus not. Atzilus is even the Kelim are Bandema, which means that the Inifama is Gover Bahem. The Amiti Sinian from Ban indicates itself and shows what you might call its Giloi in Bi'ah Davke. The Atzilus Bechlal, that's what he's now masber. The Atzilus Bechlal Hu Shema, Hu Bi'ah Bechlal Hu Shemba. Now that's the difference. In other words, that Ma is eating from beetle like we saw by Etzem HaMahuz, even though there's already a Mahuz, but there's a beetle in Etzem HaMahuz. Ban is eating from beetle Ha-Yesh Bechlal is Hamua. In other words, that there's already a feeling of the Indian from Yesh, and that's what he goes on now to say. And that's what's written over there. It's very important that we put a side to the Parsha Shavua. That's what he brings over there in the Biur from Mimona over there that he mentioned at the end of the previous verse. I will soon see in a minute. We'll soon mention a wondrous Nakuda which occurs over there in Ger Tedin in Mavur Khan. So says the Rebbe, Dehine, Shem Ban Ba'avodo, if we take it out, is Ba'avodo Sa'odom, Hu A'avo She'al Pi Tamva, Klolos Avodo Al Pi Tamva, Da. Avo, Geschmack in Elokus, devotion to Elokus. And he called Ismasvus to Elokus, but that's Indian of Avo, Indian from Kiruv, Tam, with Dveikas. But he said it's Al Pi Tamva, Da. It's all got a good Hezber and a Hizboninus and a Geschmack, but it's all Kilu, to use the expression, it's all worked out. Behind ha'avush alidei asoge v'izboninus. Now you see, Achsidus is very, very not. It doesn't hesitate occasionally to give a knock at a tone. So, I mean, who would support more the Indian from Asoge, and who would support more the Indian from Izboninus than the Rebbe and Achsidus? That's the whole Indian. Like he brings in Tanya, you have to dafkin know. Lahaki was boy, the state toy. In other words, that's the ultimate tachlis of you got to watch it. Understand? It's an ultimate tachlis, but it's a tachlis. It's in your hands. Asoga and his bonum doesn't deer. Oh, there's a deer. Oh, you got to be careful because it's konzachanaim mission a little bit of you. Ilui hamadrega was there. It's taki a tremendous ilui. Who da'ava hi mitzad das? Kishamakir is boy. The state in Tanidot. Like Ava Soilom. At the end of Memtes or the Alter Rebbe in Woods in Perik involved. He talks about Ava Soilom. Tremendous importance of it. Because your mamish maki is boire mitzadi odom. On the contrary, he said zeh kol odom. That's why you created that you should give away your koichos lahaki elokus. That's what you're here for. And remember, that's the ilush bezeh. Maki is boire ki hu chayecho. Validei zeh miser bi'ava. However, you're talking maki is boire, and you might even have a korah, but all a little bit for you. In other words, the Eivish is good for you. It's tremendous. I got a car and I was thinking about, he really means me. This is ultimately speaking my level. On the contrary, he wants me to have this level. He's the mocker from Chaim. Alideise Misera bi Avo. V'hu ha'bechira b'toyer. Ad kedikach. The Rebbe says Das ist ein gewaltiger Tachlis, bifnei Atzman. Because that's a bechira. Dafka al-idei das amitis, you come to, it's your own decision. You decide that you're going to leave over all the other narishkeiten, and you're going for Elokut. You remember, that's a bechira, that's a tachlis kol ha'adam. Boicha mamish be'Elokut. Es ist ein moeilijke woord. Es ist nicht stam, it's a gute Sache. Now, das ist die jetzt im Tachlis of a Mensch, that he's got to make his own decision. Wie all sehr harbe inyonim, yesod schachar, if he's going to get his schachar and all his inyonim, come mitzad that etzem nekuda. If so, that's a ilui otzim. And if you look in Perek Lametes, the Alter writes over there, why is it that the Nishamas that they're down in this world, that they're Zeich on Shabbos Rosh Chodesh to go over all the Hoicha Nishamas? Yeah, because he says, V'hoya, wie steht dort? V'hoya biyodam, livcha bara, v'bocher u'betoy. They could have gone that way, and they went Dafki that way. Yeah, it does have my own tikkun. A Bechira comes when you're involved with your knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, you don't have Bechira. And right, look what he writes immediately after that. Ukeneged zeh yesh b'liyuma zeh abechira bara. Keneged zeh, mamish themselves mahalach. You've got a yediyah and a gishmak and a all sting in the inif and toy. There's a little sort of a nudge. There's nudging mamish keneged zeh. Maybe biyachad himself. He said, you're choosing that way because you say, or just look at my internet for a moment. Cook off my shtickle. Come to my atar, as you might say. I'll show you that. And it makes good sense. It makes good sense. Choose that way. I was talking with a Yid in my office today, and he used the pasuk of V'chata V'chayim. I said to myself, I didn't want to get involved. I already looked over a little bit at the piece. I said, V'chata V'chayim, das ist was steht da. In der Fahrer, I said, you've got in Bechira Gufa, you got two different, ways of being Boicher. And in that Gufa, you got to make a decision how you're gonna be Boicher. And those are the tides. You've got it. I put it in front of you. Yesh l'chata. V'chata b'chayim. It's a chamer t'kizah. Give a cook. וכנגד זה יש ברור זה הבחיר ברע, רחמוני נתלן, והוא עניין זה וזה שויף טון. Das ist the pshat in Tanya. That they're both, he said, what is the diktuk? The Alter brings over there Zeh v'zeh shoif ton. There's not a Zeh v'zeh, Mevalbulon, or Zeh v'zeh moishchon, or Zeh v'zeh shoif ton. Shoif ton, a shoifet is a mensch, but he's got an opinion, he's got a day. On the contrary, he says, kach, a psak. And the other shofar says, another shofar says, psak. A mensch is in a way that he's got two different piske, poishkim, they mamish paskin differently, and they are mamish draying him the whole time. This one, in other words, even though he's been boicha b'toyev, wait a minute, what are you doing over there? Come cook, give a cook off my ata, in the Bechira B'Tei already connected it. And maybe Ulai Biglal Shu B'Chavato is he doesn't like that. kann das nicht verginnen. And therefore he all of a sudden nudges him, give a cook of mine at that. Das ist eine politische Sache. Says the Rebbe, v'zeh shaitan, das ist der Pschatten-Tang. Zeh v'zeh shoifton, two shitters, but they both paskin you, they nudging you, they shout at you, two of them. And Rabbeinu is a man, he's just decided to do it, and boom, he's got another shaykhah that says, wait a minute, what's it? Come here, my psak.
The Yetzer Hara talks louder than the Yetzer Tov.
No, you can't.
At least by me.
But you think you're some meyuchas? He talks louder by element, don't worry. אבל על כל פנים, you got the tzad HaTov, and he's also got what's his own. Im Amir, das ist der Resultat, אין לי שמחה זה אין סייב, שלא ינער, שמה ממתן. He said, if you got das, you don't have the whole problem. En dan komt deze ene gedaan met een certain dagen dat een lijn beginnen. It's not really shy to even begin. Ik merk immer zo even der weil that Chassidus is elevated in the middle. As I'm into matter, but that can be described as adequate das any. They don't really have begin anymore. Because they also say everything is pushing. Well, you got to have das. That's what written over there, that Birah of me Mona over there on the Kutta Torah. The Alter Rebbe says that the Emes of Birah is only when you come to a Dveikis Belakush or a Maila Legamri Matam Vadas. Yes, is a Bimunachet Levitachas Abshitas Lamaila Mea Asoga Ha'elakus. Or then you're on a helicopter, then you can play safe. Then you know you're going on a. So he said that even though you got to be Boicha B'Teva, that's not the Alter Rebbe doing. And he talks about Dinim from Bechira. He said, but Yachadim Zeh, you have to also have Lamaila Mi Bechira. And well, niet zo beter zaken zijn gerecht. You've got to have the Bechira, and that has to be strengthened and how do you call it, backed and made. Or you can't have just one of them either way. You can't have the Bechira because then you got the Meiser Keneged. And you can't just have the Meiser Mitam, but other is also the Alam Matachas. The Alam Matachas is you got to be in the Pechel with the Bechira. Very dikke zaak. Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah, and Bechina Zu lo yesh liumazer. That's what he says. In that Bechina there's no liumazer. That's a trick. I mean, it's a trick. That's an amazing trick. Oh, but that's not ultimately what is the ultimate Aveda. The ultimate Aveda is you got to be where there is a choice, and you have to have an asinus koyach halidei seher. Oh, that's it, my kinder. We always last night we were mulaha, when I say all of us, I mean a good portion of us. We were mulaha, and we all paskin that we don't want to be mulhaha anymore. And we want to be alaha, teichaha. By Matan Torah it's written, mulaharahu, that was Matan Torah, that was the beginning. Oh, you told me about the, how they call it, by the Siyum Kora Inyonim. These are the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach.
Maybe above the
Yeah, they want to be on the Har. Above is in Shikun. That's what למדנו עכשיו. צריכים להיות למטה, וגם עם הלמעלה. אבל צריכים להיות עם הרגליים, it's written by Yeshiva, on the Raglov al Har HaZezim ביום ההוא. ביום Raglov. משיח את המפיץ. והפיס יעמדו על הר הזיזם.